Right. Hello and welcome to the Zonal Weakness brought to you by Ghana Football Fantasy and powered by Fantasy Football Scout. And of course, you see a familiar face again. It's Bethany joining us all the way. Hello, Bethany. I can see that big smile and I know the reasons. But yeah, I'll give you the floor, Bethany, to share with us the reason for your smile. But welcome.
I feel very lucky because we've swapped our weeks around, so I shouldn't normally do 2 weeks in a row. But because we have, I get to be on here and say, yes, I had an amazing week. I got 89 points and went from 600,000 up to 92,000, so inside the top 100,000. And before the Arsenal City game, I was actually up at 19,000. So yeah, I felt like a really strong progress. And yeah, it feels exciting. And yeah. I dread asking this question because I know it's not the same answer, but how did you get on?
I would say terrible. I think it's Arsenal, it's Gabriel again, it's Saka again. So I've pulled my wild card. I've gone down from 500,000 down to 900,000 now. So yeah, my rank is just plummeting. So I thought it's ideal time to pull the wild card out. So yeah, I hope that wildcard is going to change my fortune a little bit, and I'm going to join hands with you, and maybe, or perhaps you can drag me out. I don't know which way it will work, but yeah, let's just hope the lucky charm works. Yeah.
I think it's good to remember at this point for everyone watching as well that obviously people, the rank is very changeable very quickly, that I can drop just as quickly as you have and you can rise. Like there's a few points in a few 100,000 places, so anything can happen. And this is a great point to wildcard. You can make that difference and change it back around very quickly, I think.
Right. And I think since you mentioned about the wildcard, we're going to have a very interesting zonal this week, along with some transfer suggestions and the team of the week. So let's dive in straight away. So audience, this is of course the zonal weakness for game week 6, and if you're playing the wildcard, I think this is a must watch. But before you do, please do give us a follow and a like and subscribe to all the channels that we are producing regular content here, and all the content and all the stats that you see on our content is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. There's 40% discount, so if you are interested, click in the link in the description section and you would get a 40% discount. And I think there's significant amount of stats that you can really go through to find the edge and make perhaps the most informed decision. Yeah, right. Bethany, I'm going to bring the table, and here it is, and we're going to cover quite a number of teams, and there's a lot of white. I don't know. I would call it I can't call it a blue sky. I can't call it a sea of white. I don't know, but there's a lot of white. That's all. I can't really find the perfect combination of words here. But anyway, over to you, Bethany. Take us through.
Yeah, so we start off with City, and notably Haaland is missing from the sea of white here, but he is just outside of that top 5 in chances conceded down the centre, so he's ranked 6th this week against Newcastle, and I think that's perfectly fine still to captain him this week. We've seen what Haaland can do against any team. And we know that Newcastle defence is bad, so I think Haaland's perfectly fine to be captained. I think though the one that's standing out this week that's an interesting option, I think particularly for wildcarders, is Savinho. He's been doing really well, getting those kind of assists in and things. Really cheap option, and yeah, chances conceded and crosses conceded down the left flank are ranked 1st and 2nd. For this week against Newcastle. So I think he could be a really interesting option, as well as those kind of Rodgers and McNeil's, that kind of 4th or 5th midfield slot could be really interesting where you need some budget. I like him. Next up, we've got Arsenal. And I think everybody should be going in to the next couple of weeks with at least double Arsenal, maybe even triple. I love Havertz, Saka, Gabriel, I think are my top 3 options to go with, and all of them appear on this table. I think one especially to notice is Gabriel. A lot of us went Saliba at the beginning of the season for that kind of consistency of minutes, and it hasn't turned out so well. He's already got 2 goals in the last 2 weeks, and headers conceded again. Leicester are ranked 1st best for chances conceded from headers. They're going to continue to look for him from free kicks, corners, etc. So yeah, he's one of my transfers this week. I've actually done that sideways move of Saliba and Gabriel, and I think it'll pay off over the next few weeks. But triple Arsenal, definitely double. Next up, we've got Liverpool, and those of us like me who've had Luis Diaz from the beginning are delighted to see that his name's there again. I think a lot of wildcarders will probably be moving to Diaz. His minutes aren't great. We're probably going to see him, even when he starts, come off at 70, but he can do a lot of damage in 60 to 70 minutes, as we've seen. Interestingly, it's Robertson that is coming out nice as well down that side, right flank chances and crosses conceded. So if you do need to save some money somewhere and maybe you want to drop Trent down to Robertson, he could come out well for you this week. But again, Salah and Trent don't look too bad, or even Jota and Nunez. They're both ranked 7th for chances conceded down the centre and left flank, so they're still fine options this week too. It's really nice as somebody who's brought into Menu this week to see him there with first for chances conceded down the left flank. He's been so good that even the underlying stats have been supporting him as well. He's not been kind of overachieving. He's there in the underlying numbers as well. So I think Semenyo is really good. And I think he's a really good hold long term. He is their talisman. Everything goes through him. And I've had a look ahead because he's one of my transfers in. I've looked ahead, and actually, apart from game week 8 and game week 10, which is when he plays at Arsenal and Man City, he's actually got really nice fixtures up until kind of like game week 20, game week 30. Like, you could keep him long term, and he's such a cheap price. I really like Semenyo. Then we've got Brentford, and unfortunately, although we've all a lot of us have brought in Mbeumo, especially wildcarders, it's not looking great this week. It's kind of the Zonal is supporting more of your right flank or chance concede, so your Carvalho's, Damsgaard, Potter, but I still think Mbeumo is good. Again, he's the talisman. Everything's going through him. He's been unlucky, actually, although he's got a lot of goals. He should have had more assists than he's had. So again, even if he's not scoring the goals this week, he might be getting one of the ones that's providing the assists. So I still really like him as an option. We've got West Ham, and although they've got a lot of white in there this week, I just don't trust them, I'm afraid. Like, I don't disagree. I think Brentford probably can concede, but West Ham just are looking poor, so I wouldn't recommend going there, even though the Zonal suggests otherwise this week. Similarly, Palace, not quite sure. I think they are missing @𝐙𝐨𝐧𝐚𝐥. They're just not quite the same Palace as we've seen previously. I think if you've got them already, if you've got like an Eze, you've got a Mateta, I think you keep them for this week because the Zonal supports them, but I wouldn't be buying them. And if you're on wildcard, I probably would be swapping them out to someone like Semenyo or Mbeumo instead. And then finally, we've got Aston Villa. And interestingly, it's Ramsey, Bailey, and Digne who are all standing out this week, whereas most of us have kind of got either Watkins or Rodgers. So, yeah, it might be okay, but I probably wouldn't be buying them unless Digne maybe on a wild card instead. Like, a lot of us haven't gone for Digne earlier, but I think maybe he might be a good option going forward because he has got those attacking potentials. So maybe someone to look for on a wild card, but I'd probably not be using a free transfer to go there.
Right. Okay. I mean, we'll talk about some of the transfers that you've already touched upon a little bit, but we'll come back, and because there are some transfer suggestions based on the Zonal, and this is not looking at just 1 week, but it will be looking at more of the 4 weeks ahead. So, but let's go to the next table, and first let's go through this one. What do you think?
Yeah. Obviously, Man United and Spurs play each other there, so it's not really surprising to see that there's not many white fixtures, zonal matchups in that game. I think that might be quite a close game, or hard to call at least about where it's going to go. Solanke, though, does look a good shout. So anybody on wildcard or anybody who's looking to if you've still got Isaac, for example, I think Solanke is a good shout. He's obviously ranked 4th for headers conceded this week, but also going forward, I think he's still a fairly cheap option, like quite a bit cheaper than your Watkins and your Isaacs, etc. So Solanke is a nice option. Everybody else, I think I probably wouldn't be buying this week. I not necessarily sell, but I wouldn't be buying them this week. Then we've got Fulham. Fulham have been doing really nicely attacking wise. They obviously got 3 past Newcastle last week, but otherwise they've been doing well so far this season. Robinson in defence. I know quite a few wildcarders are going without him, so it's really interesting, obviously, to see here that actually he might get an attacking return this week. We know Forest have been quite good defensively, but it is Robinson that's standing out here as could be returning from that right flank. Smith Rowe, again, if you've got him, he's fine as a hold because he's so cheap and he has been popping up with attacking returns quite regularly for his price. So fine to keep, but not necessarily one that you want to start this week. He might be your first bench option, as obviously chances conceded down the centre. Forest haven't been conceding many of those. So maybe first bench this week, but happy to hold him if you've got him. Then you've got Nottingham Forest. And again, Wood popped up last week with a penalty goal this time. We weren't expecting him to be on penalties, but he is. So that just adds to his appeal. I think a lot of wildcarders going there. And again, I think even free transfers, if you're wanting to swap out a João Pedro because he's injured, you want to downgrade an Isaac to free up some funds, I think Wood's a great way to go. I started the season with him and swapped him out, but he's done well consistently across the whole first 5 weeks. So yeah, I think he's good. And obviously ranked second for headed chances there. So it could be an option this week too. Next up, we've got Everton, who've actually been doing really well attacking wise. Defensively, they've been horrific.
Yeah.
Avoid their defence, but they've been doing well attacking wise. Unfortunately, the Zonal doesn't show that they've got many options this week. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's looking the best option, ranked 6th for headers conceded. Again, I think they're final wild card because they've got really nice fixtures long term, but this week maybe not the time to go for them on your free transfer, or maybe again one to bench. Bring in and bench. They've got cheap options, so you can easily bench them for a week. Next up, we've got Leicester, and I know a few people went with Vardy last week and were disappointed. Obviously, he's cheap, but I think there are better options in that cheap bracket, like Wood. So he's great this week, but I think that he's not going to get those consistent minutes. He is older now; he's going to get brought off earlier, and Leicester just aren't just a team you can't rely on in the same way as other teams. So I like Vardy if you wanted a 1 week punt for some reason, but I wouldn't be bringing him into my team, I think. And then finally, Brighton. No options particularly standing out this week. The best option you've got is Welbeck. So if you've already got him, he's not a terrible option. We know that Chelsea can leak goals, although they've been pretty good defensively recently, mostly thanks to Sanchez, I think. But yeah, Welbeck is not terrible to start, but I wouldn't be bringing any Brighton assets in this week for this fixture.
Well, I think the zonal table has really surprised me a little bit, considering I'm playing my wild card. I wasn't really expecting some of the obvious names, but I was expecting some names, and then the ones I was expecting are not there. The ones I didn't expect, or everybody is kind of rushing towards, are already there. But it's interesting. Let's go to the team of the week, and then we'll quickly go through 3 transfer suggestions. Yeah, here it is, the team of the week.
Yeah, really nice there. Obviously, you've got both Haaland and Salah in there, so interesting for captaincy this week because both Newcastle and Wolves have both been really poor defensively. So I think you can go either direction there. Yeah, got the double Arsenal attack, which I think is really nice. We've got Savinho, which obviously I said was a nice differential, and obviously both Savinho and Semenyo are nice cheap players. That means that you could be able to afford to fit in both Salah and Haaland. You are going to need those cheap players. Robertson, a bit of a surprise in there rather than Trent this week, but could be nice for some owners. Robinson, don't get rid of if you are not on wildcard, especially. Keep him for at least another week, as he might get those attacking returns. And then, yeah, Mitchell, a bit of a surprise in there. I would never not considered Mitchell at the moment, but could be a differential for people if they wanted to go there nice and cheap.
Right. Interesting dilemma, I think, again, this week will be the captaincy, whether to go with Salah or whether to go with Haaland. And both of them are just slightly outside the white mark. I think Salah is ranked 7th, and I think Haaland is ranked 6th. So both of them have made it to the zonal team. So I think that's the reason as to why I'm saying, like, most of I think to an extent, what I've seen in the wildcard is that many people are going without Salah. So that could be an interesting one. Anyway,
I think if you're chasing,
here is the first transfer suggestion.
Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
If you're chasing, maybe you might want to go Salah as a differential, but if you want to play it safe, I think Haaland is the one to play it safe with. I think obviously Liverpool, the goals are still spread around quite a lot. Like you have got Diaz in there, you've got Jota, you've got Trent, you've got Robertson. They're spread around more, whereas generally things go through Haaland, I think. So Haaland for the safe option, Salah if you want to go a bit different.
Right. So wildcarders are transferring in players, and I know he's quite a popular pick. But what do you think the Zonal suggests when it comes to Saka? Over to you, Bethany.
Yeah, Saka, I wish I'd never got rid of him. I got rid of him on my wild card on game week 3. I've swapped him to Palmer because I was like, I knew he had much tougher fixtures coming up and Palmer had much nicer ones, but actually he's continued to do really well every single week. I think he might be the only player that's, or maybe Haaland as well, one of the few players that have returned every single week. So Saka is a great option long term, but just looking at the next few fixtures, Leicester and Southampton. So he's playing 2 promoted teams in the next couple. 22 conceded for down Saka's flank, and then Southampton coming up next, ranked first. So looking really good. Even Liverpool, like, it doesn't look great as an opponent, but you know that Saka could get something in any game, really. Whether because he can provide goals as well as assists, he has got that option. So I really like Saka. I've brought him back in. I've taken a -12 this week, and interestingly, I think all 3 of the people I've brought in on my as part of my -12 are part of your transfer selection. So that makes me feel really good that it might be worth a hit.
Good. Right. Let's get to the next one then. Here it is. Your second transfer options, Bethany.
Yeah. Bremo also brought in on my hit. Again, he's that player who's just been consistently returning. He is that talisman. He's got some nice fixtures coming up, both in the short term and longer term. Plays West Ham, who have been looking defensively terrible. Next, Wolves again have been looking pretty poor. So I think again, he has multiple options to points. He is somebody who can give assists as well as score the goals. So I really like Bromo, and he's a reasonable price. I know his price is rising, so get on him earlier. But looking really nice. And then again, Ipswich there in 4 weeks' time, another promoted team. So really nice option.
Right, and the final transfer suggestion based on the zonal weakness. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Yeah,
my third of my 4 transfers this week. So I clearly agree with these as transfer options. Plays Southampton next. A promoted team, 24 shots there, and then Leicester ranked 4th. We've got Arsenal in game week 8, which isn't great. But actually looks better than you think actually on the zonal. But even then, if you did want to bench him, he's cheap enough to bench if you've got another option. So I don't mind that. And like I said earlier, this is the short term. He looks great on the zonal, but actually the fixtures look pretty good long term too. So once you move him in, you wouldn't have to think about that position for a while, I think.
Right, and I think that concludes the show for this week. So thank you so much. And I think this is going to be an interesting week in terms of the wildcard and everything. And I think with the transfers and how the zonal table looked like. But Bethany, it was a pleasure having you. And as usual, really enjoyed listening to all that you had to say. And of course, your analysis. But thank you, audience, for joining. And of course, keep supporting us. Don't forget to hit the subscriber. And we'll be back next week again before we get into the international break. But until then, take care and good luck with your wildcard.
Yeah, bye-bye. Good luck with yours.